Miracle.
Yeah,
Hi.
now we got it to work. Sort of. But glad to have you.
All right.
The big sigh from her is always disapproval.
Can I see?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but no, nobody has a link to this. So this is just a, I think they would have to have a link to it. Okay. We promise you that we're really good at using the software Zoom. That we are good at Zoom. We teach our classes on Zoom. But this, I just wanted to tell you while she's trying to see if other people could join us, and it doesn't matter. We're going to record this, and everybody will have access to it. Some thoughts about what we're trying to do today, very briefly, is that we have a longer video from a couple of years ago called "How to Register for," or what's the process for taking the notary exam in Louisiana. And most of that's still true. And it's in far more detail than we're doing here because this is just a kind of an update of that. So that one, for example, I wrote down talks about how to use tabs, very detailed parts of each step of the registration process. It talks about the books that are available, although our YouTube channel has a lot of reviews of bad scam books, as you know.
And those give a lot of hints to some of the actual answers. So it's more than just reviewing the books, it's actually helpful information.
Yeah. So other things, available classes, the form of the multiple choice questions, the exam format. And this one, however, is kind of updating that with kind of the major steps that you have to go through if you want to become a notary in Louisiana. It's a hard exam, as people have probably told you, that it has a less than 20% pass rate historically, somewhere around 18 to 19% typically, sometimes 22%, sometimes 17%, but you could say on average around 19%. But that's a little misleading, or I want it to not be too daunting to you for two reasons. One is a lot of people who take the exam are just being told they need it for the job or something, and they don't really study for it. And so, uh, oh,
Michael Hughes is 8908 is watching
all
us.
right, Michael Hughes is here. He's already a notary. He doesn't need to be here, but I appreciate the
All right, so
input.
I'm gonna put
Tell
on
people on Facebook.
Facebook. If I
Yeah,
can find Facebook on my phone.
yeah.
So much.
So yeah, um, that of course I completely forgot what I was talking about.
You were talking about something.
Yeah, see, this is why we're good together.
It took us so long to
This is
figure
how we
out how
do.
to get
This is
this
how we do
going.
that trivia. The trivia. It's that guy in that movie.
You should see us playing Jeopardy.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Oh no,
Okay.
no, the guy with the woman in the movie. So yeah, the reason I don't think it's daunting as it seems is a lot of people who are taking it are not prepared for it. So it's just going to be a bad pass rate no matter what with that group of people. They think it's easy, or they were a notary in another state where it was easy and they just thought it would be a formality to take the exam. Several of our students have reported over the years that they're sitting next to a person who looks like they've never opened the book, or they don't have a book with them, the state study guide fundamentals that you're allowed to take into the exam, which means that they don't have a chance. Another reason why it shouldn't be so daunting is the system changed this year, 2025, and will be in place throughout 2026 and beyond, that allows you to take it multiple times per year. Used to be you could take it 2 or 3, occasionally 4 times per year if they just added an extra exam out of the blue. Now you can take the exam, and if you find out you fail, there's no shame in failing an exam this hard. You can immediately re-register for another exam, meaning that you could take it 6 or 7 times in a calendar year, March through November. I don't recommend that. I don't think that's necessary for almost everybody. However, knowing that you can do that means that there's not huge pressure on the first time you take it in the year. And it also means the chances of your passing eventually are extremely high. So even if the pass rate's only 18%, if they have people repeatedly taking it throughout the year until they get the passing score, then the pass rate won't go up, but the number of people who wind up passing, and especially passing with a few attempts, will shoot up. And I think that's their goal, is to have more notaries, but to do it without changing this passing score on the exam. So don't let the low passing score intimidate you, but you know you're going to have to take the process seriously. Uh, the So that other longer YouTube from a couple of years ago kind of goes into a lot more detail on all of this. But I did want to say that you'll you could also find details about the registration process and what the exam is like in well, first of all, the Secretary of State's website is always good to keep an eye on because it tells you the rules. It's a little confusing because it also includes the rules for lawyers to become notaries, and it's not always easy to figure out what are the rules that apply to you, the non-lawyer notary. Another source is I published a book. The current edition is yellow instead of blue, so it's just out. It's called "Become a Notary Public in Louisiana." It's on Amazon. It's cheap, and you can also get it in ebook form for very cheap from Apple or Kindle or whatever. And it's a yellow cover for 2026, and it just details all of this, including the format of the exam strategies, and classes and books that are available out there, not just our own. Um, where do you register? Well, the first thing you do is at the Secretary of State's website is you do the application to qualify. And all this is verifying that you're not a felon, or if you are a felon, you've been pardoned.
Pardoned by the governor. It's not an administrative pardon. A lot of people get arrested, have a felony, and they get the 1 year administrative pardon from the state. That is not enough to become a notary public. You have to get the golden pardon from the governor, unfortunately.
And not a commutation or anything of that sort.
Not a commutation,
Now,
not an expungement. It
there's
has to
no
be a golden pardon.
there's no law that actually says it has to be a governor's pardon. That is an
We've gone back
interpretation.
and forth with
Yeah,
them.
that's an interpretation by their office. So I do think that could be litigated, but you obviously don't want to be in the position to have to litigate that. So they want you to be a non-felon. You have to be a domicile, a full citizen of Louisiana. So people on the Texas border who want to add Louisiana to
Or
their
Mississippi border.
yeah,
There's a lot of people try to
do both. Not
Yeah.
allowed. Right. Another thing that I think could be litigated, but because there's Supreme Court precedent for lawyers that say they don't have to live in the state.
You
But
have to
what's
be
the litigate?
domiciled in a place where you're going to have your license. So I'm sorry, not a license, your commission. So make sure.
Yeah. So you pick a parish that's your home parish. It has to be in Louisiana. It's where you have your voting registration.
And you do have to be registered to vote.
If you're a citizen, you have to be a registered voter, and you have to keep your voting, your qualification to vote current throughout the years, or you'll lose your commission. And we know people who've let that lapse. So that will be your home parish. Now, the good news is for the last 20 years, your home parish doesn't determine where you can work or do the notary stamp other than within Louisiana. So you could be commissioned in Caddo Parish, but do all of your work in Orleans Parish. That's a pretty weird commute, but there's no limitation on your home parish being the only place you do your notarizations. It's a bureaucratic or administrative situation that you are a local notary, but you're a statewide your local commission and statewide
And
jurisdiction.
you can't be vacationing in Florida and doing Louisiana work while you're out of the state. You have to be in the state while you're notarizing in the state. There's a lot of quirks and rules.
Right.
And they'll test you on those, so
Yeah.
know those rules.
So you gotta be registered to vote. You can't be a felon. You have to be a high school graduate. You have to certify that you're fluent in English. And other than that, the application to qualify is mostly just a chance for them to open an account for you online and assign you an ID number, which eventually actually will be your notary ID number, and take some money from you. And every step that I'm about to talk about, they take some money from you.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it adds up, but the application qualifies probably $35. The second step after you have been approved in your application to qualify is the pre-assessment exam. So maybe 2 days after your application to qualify is approved by the Secretary of State, and it's usually just easily approved because you check off those requirements and you've met them, then they'll send you a link from LSU, or LSU will send you a link to take a pre-assessment exam. But this isn't a notary exam, and you don't have to study for it in any way. It's just another chance for them to take some money from you, but also uh, you take this exam. It's just a reading comprehension exam. It might have a passage on the difference between butterflies and moths, and then they'll ask you a lot of questions about the difference between butterflies and moths. They'll assign you a grade, usually A, B, C, or D. The grade has no value other than information for you. It doesn't, there's no grade that fails you or keeps you from going to the next step of registering, but you have to go through that process. The good news is you only have to go through that process once. That is to say, the pre-assessment exam is one and done, whereas the application to qualify does have to be renewed once a year, just because your answers might have changed in the last year. You might have gotten a felony conviction or moved out of the state. So you do have to renew your application to qualify within a year if you haven't passed the exam within that year. And that's fine if you have not. The pre-assessment exam, though, once you've taken it, you're done. And that's true even if sometimes the website, the account tells you that you have to take it to go to the next step and you know you've already taken it. Then you contact the Secretary of State's Notary Division and tell them you've already taken it. They'll check and see that you have and remove the block. But a lot of people think they have to take it multiple times because the website keeps telling them to take it. Okay, once you've passed or gotten a score for the pre-assessment exam, and you'll see my advice on that longer video is to not take that score too seriously, but consider it with all the information that you have in your life as to whether this is going to be worth it to you. But once you get that score, within a couple of days, you're, oh, maybe even immediately, your website shows that you're available to register for the actual exam if they have some exam scheduled. Today in December, November, they don't have any scheduled for March of 2026. And I don't know when they're, have you heard from that notary education meeting?
The notary educator providers meeting that we went to, they were planning on scheduling exams between March and November, 2 times during the week and once on Saturdays, and not on every Saturday in November, obviously, because of football season. They were only having the tests in Baton Rouge at this time. They're planning on expanding it to LSU Shreveport at some point, but they have not put up the schedule yet for this upcoming year. They're still waiting on the study guide to be updated and printed, and there were a lot of changes in some succession law. So I think that it may be a minute before we get the updated study guide, and at that point they will start scheduling. Like last year, I don't think that the exam started until May or June.
Yeah.
It was pretty late in the year when they started scheduling the computer-based tests.
And this year, or 2026, they're saying they will schedule it in March.
They're saying March.
So it may be available to be registered in January or February. But I think she's right that they're probably going to wait until they know exactly when the study guide can be released, because they would have a hard time releasing it and letting people take the exam if they know that the study guide is going to be a lot later than that. So yeah, she's handling a client right now, and so yeah, it's on my desk over there. Yeah. So and you might want to do it with a different signature line. So you will get to choose your date and time. And what I was saying earlier, it means that you have multiple attempts during the year. Like if you take it March 16th, I'm just picking a date, and maybe you've registered for it as late as January 30th, whenever they allow that registration process. Keep an eye on the Secretary of State's website. Well, they'll post dates, and then you can immediately go and pick one of those. Well, let's say you take it March 16th, and you find out within about 7 days, that seems to be the timeline now, that you passed it, great. But if you find out that you failed on June 23rd, you would then be eligible to go and register for a new exam. And it may be that some of the ones that are a few weeks away are already booked up, but presumably something in April will be available. And then you could take it in April, you could take it in June, you could take it in August, you could take it in October. And so you could take it multiple times during 2026 using the same study guide that you've written your notes into and that you're good to go on. It will only be in Baton Rouge for a while, and we don't know what a while means, but my guess is that at least most of 2026, it'll still be only administered in Baton Rouge. Now, what they try to do to be helpful to people in North Louisiana is that the ones during the week tend to be scheduled late in the day, like 4:30 to 8:30 or something of that sort, so that people could go in one day and drive home without having to stay in a hotel room, and also allow people maybe to work most of the morning at their job before they drive to take the exam. So they're trying, plus having Saturday dates available. And by the way, if you're going to be accommodated under the Americans with Disabilities Act, it will almost always have to be a Saturday date for that. That's where they have the staff to handle that situation. So that's something to look into with the Secretary of State's Notary Division if you plan to seek accommodation for this exam of any kind of different kinds of accommodations. That's something to look into. And the Secretary of State's office is familiar with that, knows all the rules. So they're the ones you would contact. Anyway, the next thing I wanted just to mention briefly is that there are classes available. They're not required. But Michelle and I offer a class on Zoom. So you would go to notarysidepiece.com or just schoolofnotary.com to register for that. We have one January 6th running through March 17th. And it's every Tuesday night for about 3 hours. It is available in the winter. Then we'll repeat spring, summer, and fall to have live ones. But ours was on Zoom, so it's recorded, better quality than what I'm doing here on YouTube, where I don't know what I'm doing. And those recordings are available to the students every week as we have the class, or to people who want to just take it on demand and not attend live. So that is a good way for anybody in the state to be able to prepare for this exam. And I'm confident that ours is a really good class. An example I give is that the September 10th and 11th exams, which were the first two exams administered under the new computer only program last September, there were 7 people on September 10th who passed overall out of 44. That's how hard it is. But of those 7, 5 of them were our students. There were the next day 5 students out of 25 who passed. But of those 5, 2 of them were our students. So, I mean, my hard sell is that I think we're very successful and could give you your best chance of passing. I'm sure other teachers are fine too. I'm just saying statistically, that's what happened with those exams. Um, One of the reasons I think we're successful is we have experience teaching, but also we give 4 practice exams, and 3 of them are extremely similar to the kind of exam you'll be facing, and they're challenging. So people don't enjoy our practice exams. They don't have fun in them because they're hard. But then they tell us that the actual exam is similar or maybe even easier in some ways. That's the good news, is that if we challenge you now and teach you all the tricks they're going to use on you, you won't go into the actual exam with false confidence from having had easy exams that make you feel good about yourself. So we're not about making you feel good about yourself, except when you pass. And we will challenge you every step of the way with they're optional exams. You don't have to take them. And an exercise we give as well, where we give you feedback, is not required. But we do find that the rate of success is much higher for those who do engage in the exercises. So that's our class. And of course, I strongly recommend it and hope that you'll go to schoolofnotary.com and find it there. Um, Other classes can be in person, and if that's the kind of education you use best, then I'm not going to at all talk you out of it. We don't provide that to as notary exam prep. We do have workshops for commissioned notaries that are in person. So you can go on the Secretary of State's website and find a lot of different options there. So they list all the notary educators, and you may find some in person one near you that would work best for you. The only caution I have is that none of us who are registered notary educators have been screened in any way. So just the fact that we're on the Secretary of State's website uh, doesn't mean that they've done any quality control or accreditation. Um, so it's hit or miss whether the quality is good. And that I'm saying that for me, I'm only saying we're a good class because I think we are, but nobody else has certified us to be a good class. And you have to be aware of that. So ask around is what I would say. Another thing is that just because a class is associated with a college or university doesn't mean that is also go through any kind of accreditation process or sifting process or approval process. So I wouldn't assume that something that's associated with a college or university is necessarily better than one that isn't. That's just, again, asking around is better than assuming that, well, if it's associated with X college, it must be good. Um, Also, check the end date of the class because it may be that it ends far past the exam that you are scheduled to take or want to take. And so check to see whether the class meets your specific needs. For example, a class that I teach for Tulane University, I co-teach, starts in January, ends in May, which is fine for people who would be taking the June exam. These are Tulane students, usually undergraduates or those in the paralegal certificate program. And it's great for them. But we tell them from class one, this isn't going to prepare you for the March exam or the April exam. So our private class ends March 17th and is designed for a mid-March to late March exam or early April exam. But my Tulane University class is not designed that way. So be careful when you look at a particular class to know kind of what its target exam is to make sure that it is the schedule that you want. In terms of resources, there are plenty of books on Amazon that say they're for Louisiana notaries. But as you'll see from all of our reviews of scam books, most of the books on Amazon, even with Louisiana on their cover, are not for Louisiana notaries, have wrong answer for Louisiana, do not understand the differences of Louisiana, refer to us as having counties. It's a giveaway. And they're just a scam that Amazon should not be allowed to sell. But they all have these 5-star reviews that they've gotten from all over the world. Isn't that amazing? But they're scams. So do be careful when you buy a book that it is going to meet your needs and not steer you wrong. So I've done a series of reviews, and as Michelle said, they're not just reviews to tell you about the book. I'm in the process teaching you some rules that they test on a lot because these books have it wrong and the right answer is X, and I want to share that right answer with you. So I hope that our YouTubes really help you in that regard. So that's really what I wanted to say is that that's the step process of becoming a notary in Louisiana. It looks challenging. It is challenging. I don't think that the 18, 19% pass rate should scare you as much as it sounds. I think people who commit to it and do all the work necessary for it do wind up getting their commission. It's just maybe take several steps to do that, several exams to do that. Just in psychologically, I say to people, think about how the CPA exam requires 4 separate exams before you can become a CPA. Well, this requires only one passing exam, but if you wound up having to take it 2 or 3 times, that is similar to the process for CPA. So we're working on a car title right now. And so hope you could enjoy doing notary work as well in the future. So I'm going to stop now. And Michael Hughes has a recommendation of our class, and we appreciate it. And I will post this link on Facebook and elsewhere so people can find it. Thanks, guys.